So I'll tell you a story from the United States Marine Corps. I had an opportunity to visit OCS in Quantico, Virginia. And the colonel in charge of OCS was supposed to give me a briefing on what they do at OCS and how they train their officers, et cetera. And he showed up late. And I know you know this, but Marines don't show up late ever. And he walked into the room and apologized and said, "I'm sorry, we've had an incident on base." So of course I was curious. I said, "What happened? What happened?" He said, "Well, it's serious enough that, we're considering throwing one of our Marines out of OCS, throwing one of our Marines out of the Marine Corps." So I'm thinking, oh my God, what crime did this person commit? I said, "What'd he do?" He said, "He fell asleep on what?" And I said, "That's it? Like he fell asleep on watch in the woods of Virginia and you're going to throw him out of the Marine Corps for that? That's a bit harsh, don't you think?" And he said, "No, you don't understand. When we asked him about it, he denied it. When we asked him about it again, he denied it again. And only when we showed him irrefutable proof did he say, quote, 'I want to take responsibility for my action.'" He said, "The problem we have is you don't take responsibility for your actions at the time you get caught. You take responsibility for your actions at the time you perform your action." He said, "We have another Marine that fell asleep. He admitted it. We punished him, but we have no problem with him." And then the colonel went on to explain. He says, "You have to understand, if I put this kid in a leadership position in a combat situation and his Marines think for 1 minute that he's trying to protect himself at the expense of others, if he's trying to just advance his own career, trust will decline, trust will break, and people will die." And so I started to understand that what it means to lead and what camaraderie means in these environments is literally our lives depend on each other. And I don't have to like you, but I do have to trust you. And I think that in the civilian world, we confuse those two, that I only trust you when I like you. And if I don't like you, I don't trust you. And in this case, it's about responsibility to the service, not responsibility to someone's personality. And when someone is a good actor, when someone has honor, and this is one of the things that I lament, which is the word honor doesn't really have usage in the civilian world. Like we don't use that word, that she's honorable, he's honorable. But in the military, that word still has meaning. And you describe someone as, "I don't like him, but he's absolutely honorable." And that is the basis for camaraderie. I don't think you can have true camaraderie unless you have the belief that someone is watching your back. For one, I think that the military is very good at understanding the difference between the battle and the war, which is you fight to win battles, but you can lose battles and still win the war. And I think military understands the short game and the long game a lot better, which is when you go into action, you play to win, but when you're not in action, you play to improve. And so the military is in a constant state of constant improvement. How do we make our systems better? How do we make our training better? How do we make our leaders better? How do we make everything's constant improvement? Fight to win, then go back to constant improvement. And I think in the civilian world, everybody's just trying to win all the time, and they forget the long game. And the problem is when we only play the short game, when we only play to win or advance our careers or look like heroes, we actually do long-term damage to an organization. That's the opposite of constant improvement. And so I think the ability to understand when you're playing a finite game and when you're playing an infinite game, the military is much better at that. Most importantly, nobody is smart enough or strong enough to do this thing called leadership all by themselves. Leadership is just too difficult. And the great leaders I know, they know how to ask for help. They know how to lean on someone when they are struggling. They know how to say, "I don't understand." And so I think number one is there's no such thing as a great leader without a team of great people around them. Leadership is a team sport. And thinking you have to do everything alone, you're going to burn yourself out and you're going to break yourself. And ultimately, you'll hurt the organization. So ask for help when you need it. Admit you don't know things when you don't know them. And you find you're surrounded by people who want to help you. There's no leadership gene. And if you look at all of the people that we would consider great leaders, you can see that they had a journey. They all had journeys. Gandhi started off as a lawyer who failed the bar in the UK and moved to South Africa, where he was more likely to pass the bar. And then he saw the injustice in South Africa. What if he passed the bar in the UK? There would be no Gandhi. They all went on journeys and they all had trials and tribulations that taught them the skill of leadership. Leadership is a learnable, practicable skill. And like any skill, like riding a bicycle, if you do it a lot, you get good at it. And if you don't do it a lot, your muscles will atrophy. There's no such thing as an expert in leadership. Every great leader I've ever met considers themselves a student of leadership. They're constantly reading books about it, watching talks about it, having conversations about it, regardless of how much they've accomplished in their careers. So every great leader that any of us have ever known or followed or admired, I can guarantee you they went on their own journey. So yeah, leadership is a learnable, practicable skill. You can't be a great athlete without a coach. You don't have the same objectivity and perspective on yourself as someone looking from the outside in. So I absolutely do believe in mentors and coaches. The most important thing that I have found in a mentor relationship is that there's a difference between a mentor and a champion. And sometimes I think we get those things confused. A champion is someone who can help your career, put in a good word for you, where a mentor usually is outside of your chain of command. A good mentor, they have no ability to help advance your career. The only thing they can do is be 100% objective and tell you what they think based on how you're acting or what you're doing. And I think those relationships are immensely valuable because we can't say to them, put in a good word for me. They have no ability, nor do they feel that responsibility, quite frankly. So they have the ability to be totally objective. They're outside the chain. Now, you can have a good mentor inside the chain of command, but the problem is it's complicated by the chain of command. So I think good mentors are outside, and sometimes even outside the industry, outside of your unit, outside of your MOS, whatever it is, because then they don't really know your job. They only know you. I think coaching is not about telling people what to do. It's about helping them see things that they may not see. But ultimately, people are responsible for their own actions. And I've learned in my own journey when I've offered coaching to people that when I give them an observation or maybe offer some points of view, if they fight with me or get defensive, I would fight back and say, no, you're wrong, you're missing it. And it became about me being accountable. And so if they don't understand something, that's different. But when they're defensive now, if they push back, I go, I'm just telling you what I think. You can absolutely ignore me. You can throw it out. I'm just here to help. But I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not right. I don't have answers. It's just a point of view. It's just an observation. This is your career. This is your leadership. You do what you think is right. And the minute you push the accountability on the person that they're responsible for their own actions, all of a sudden they're much more open to coaching. And I like to remind coaches that if you go watch football, for example, the coach is not allowed to run onto the field to play. Even if the coach knows what to do, even if the coach knows how to do it better, the coach is not allowed to play in the game. And it's the same for coaching and leadership, which is the coach is not allowed to make the decision. The coach is not allowed to rush in to lead the group. The coach can only stand on the sidelines and offer what they think is help to the players. But ultimately, the players are responsible for their own behavior and their own decisions. I don't think we can create an organization where everyone every day is motivated and enthusiastic. That's like we love our children every day, but we don't like our children every day. It's like we can love our work every day. We don't have to like it every day. We can be inspired at work every day. We don't have to be motivated at work every day. There are other things that are factors in our lives. And so I think the most important thing is that it is a team, because no team is operating with every player at the highest level every moment of every day. It sort of goes like this. It's like any kind of relationship. If one person is struggling for whatever reason, that the other players can come in to hold them up and help compensate for any work that needs to get done. And you lean on each other. And that's what makes it flawless. It's the fluidity of being able to lean on each other. And the relationships are so good, and we start to understand each other, that we know when I can stand in. We also know each other's strengths and weaknesses, so we know who to plug in because somebody's better at this. This has happened to me where even just as a leader, my personality, I'm not getting through to somebody on my team. They're just not listening to me. But it's my personality. And so instead of me just doing the same thing over and over again, I'll ask somebody else to fill in, because their personality might work a lot better. And it works a lot of the time. So I think it's that ability to understand that this is a team, this is a team, this is a team. At all times, it is a team that keeps the inspiration and the desire to come to work really high.